Welcome students to the another session of life processes. Today we will be studying about transportation in human beings. The circulatory system is broadly divided into two types, the open circulatory system and the closed circulatory system. The open circulatory system is a system in which the blood does not flow in certain vessels. Like in human beings, the blood flows in arteries, veins, they are the vessels. But instead, the blood flows in the body cavity and diffuses directly into the organs. The example is that of arthropod, that is, you can take cockroach. In cockroaches, they don't have any arteries or veins. The blood is pumped into the body cavity and there it diffuses directly to the organs. The closed circulatory system. In the closed circulatory system, the blood moves throughout the body in blood vessels like the arteries, veins that we have in our human beings. The number of chamber defines the three major heart types. Fish, they have two-chambered system. Reptiles, they have three-chambered system. And mammals have four-chambered system. Two-chambered system means they have got one atrium and one ventricle. Three-chambered system means they have two atrium and one ventricle. And four-chambered heart means two atrium, two ventricles. There are three major heart types. So here you can see in the figure the two-chambered heart example is that of a fish heart in which there is one atrium and one ventricle. The reptiles, the amphibians like the frogs, they have three-chambered heart. You can see there are two atriums and one ventricle. Here the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood flows together throughout the body. Now, since the requirement of energy of such organisms is lower, the need of oxygen is fulfilled even if the blood contains the mixture of oxygen and carbon dioxide throughout the body. In mammal's heart, there are four chambers, two atrium and two ventricles. Now, on the left side, where it is shown by the red color, are the flow of oxygenated blood, and on the right side where there is blue color, this side is a flow of deoxygenated blood. This means that both the system do not get mixed up and our energy requirement of getting more oxygen is fulfilled over here. The oxygenated blood and the deoxygenated blood do not mix here in the four-chambered heart, but here the oxygenated blood and the deoxygenated blood do mix up. Let us talk about blood. It is a fluid connective tissue. The blood has got two components major. One is the plasma, which is a liquid form, and one are the cells. They are called as corpuscles. The different types of cells that are found are the red blood cell, the white blood cell, and the platelet. You can see in the figure over here, these are the red blood cells, red in color. They are the platelets, and these are the WBCs, white blood cells. Different types of white blood cells are there. You can see the names of such white blood cells. They are the lymphocyte, basophil, eosinophil, monocyte, neutrophil. The plasma contains the serum and the protein. So the composition of the blood can be again mainly divided into two parts, the plasma and the blood cells. Now, if we take a whole blood in a test tube and if we centrifuge and keep it for some time, now a care should be taken that this blood do not clot. So, anti-clotting agent like heparin is put. Whenever a blood donation is done, in the pouch you can always find a heparin is placed so that After the blood is taken from the human being, the blood do not clot. So in this whole blood, an anticoagulant agent called heparin is kept. Now, if you centrifugate, after some time you will see all the red bloods have settled down. The white cells are above the red blood cells and the plasma is found above. This is very useful because nowadays there are many therapies during which only RBCs have to be given to the patient. Then easily, because of this process, only RBCs can be given to the person, not the whole bloods, that is the plasma and the WBC. If only plasma is to be injected to the person will be given only the plasma, not the whole blood. Now, what is serum? Serum is plasma minus the clotting factor. So, if the anticoagulant property is not put inside when the blood is taken out from the human, then what happens? The blood will clot. Now, when the blood clots, it is a body that is fully fibrous in nature. If you get a cut on your body, the blood clots after within few minutes, and the clotting is because the whole fibrous layer has been formed on the cut so that it prevents the flow of the blood outside the body. During that time, the liquid that is seen over here is the serum, because now the blood has clotted, it has become fully fibrous, and the serum is there. So what is serum? Serum is always found when the blood has clotted. So it is plasma minus the clotting factor. So when serum is there, the blood is always clotted, and when the plasma is there, the blood, different elements of bloods can be clearly seen, the RBCs, the WBCs and the platelets and the plasma. Types of blood cells. Now we have studied the red blood cells. This is how the red blood cells is seen. You can see the human red blood cells do not have any nucleus. These are the different types of WBC, the white blood cells. They are the monocyte, the eosinophil, lymphocyte, neutrophil, the basophil. They are also identified on the shapes and the shape of the nucleus that they are having. And this is a platelet. So these are the three types of blood, the RBC, the WBCs and the platelets. Function of the blood. The blood is plasma, and this plasma transports food, carbon dioxide and the nitrogenous waste in the dissolved form. The RBC carries oxygen. The WBC helps to develop our immune system, and the platelets prevents blood loss by clotting at the point of injury. Now, let us see how the artery and the vein looks anatomically. You can see the artery is thick-walled, whereas the vein is thin-walled. So, there are the different layers that can be seen. So, let us start with the lumen part. See, the artery, the lumen is very small, and in the vein, the lumen is big. Okay, and second thing, you'll have to learn about the thickness. The arteries are always thick-walled and the veins are not thick-walled. Why are the arteries thick-walled? In the artery, the blood flows in pressure. But in the veins, the blood do not flow in pressure. We know that the arteries carry oxygenated blood from the heart to the different parts of the body. That means the heart pumps the blood in pressure, under pressure, and that is how the blood goes to the various organs. Now the deoxygenated blood from the various cells, they enter inside the veins, and from the body the blood is brought back to the heart, and here the body do not pump the blood to the heart. The blood flows back to the from the vein to the heart, and no pumping is there. Therefore, the thickness is not required. Now, in order that the blood do not come back, flow back, then what is there in the veins? The veins have valves, so that backflow of the blood is prevented. So this is how the arteries and the veins look like. The blood is flowing over here, and you can say the blood flows over here, but to prevent the backflow, we have got valves over here. So blood is flowing here. So you should know the differences between the arteries and the veins. It is thick-walled, it is thin-walled, it do not have valves, it have valves presented. Blood flows under pressure over here, blood do not flow under the pressure over here. Blood flows from the heart to the different parts of the organs, and blood flows from the organs to different part of the heart. So these are the differences between arteries and the vein. Arteries carry blood away from the heart, veins carry blood towards the heart. The blood is under pressure, the blood is under low pressure. The walls are thick-walled, the walls are thin. There is a pulse flow and there is a smooth flow. The lumen is narrow and the lumen is large. There are no walls present. The walls are present to prevent the backflow of the blood. The blood is rich in oxygen except the pulmonary artery, and the blood is poor in oxygen except the pulmonary vein. Capillaries. Capillaries are one cell thick vessels, and the blood flows under very low pressure over here. It is a place where gaseous exchange takes place. The oxygen passes through the capillary wall into the tissues, while the carbon dioxide passes from the tissue into the blood. So exchange of gases takes place at the site of capillaries. Capillaries are very narrow and thin walls. So easily you can see this is an artery. As it reaches to our different cells and tissues, what happens? It breaks down into it branches into many capillaries. They are only one cell thick. So here they are branching, and all these branches are again joining together to form a vein. So capillaries are of two types, the oxygenated and the deoxygenated. The oxygenated branches out and the deoxygenated joins in to form a venule and then a vein. Here you can see there is a mixture of color. That means this part contains both the oxygenated and the deoxygenated part. Slowly, because of the process of diffusion, the oxygen diffuses in the cell and the carbon dioxide diffuses out, and it is carried back from the capillaries to the venules and to the vein. So which is the biggest artery? Here aorta is not written, but we'll have to say aorta. Then after aorta, artery. Inside the organs of different organs have different arteries. That is, there is an artery of kidney, there is an artery of stomach. Different organs contains different arteries. So the biggest one from the heart is the aorta. Then the aorta divides into different arteries. The artery further divides inside the organ into arterioles, and to supply blood to various cells, the arterioles then further divides into various capillaries, the capillaries join back again to form capillaries, joining capillaries, and then they again, all these joining capillaries join together to form venules, and all these venules join together to form, when it comes out of the organ, this is still inside the organ, when it comes out of the organ, a veins comes out. So you say inside the organ, till inside the organ, artery is there, the artery divides into arteriole inside the organ, then further inside the organ, arterioles divide into capillaries. These capillaries join together to form capillaries, that is deoxygenated blood, and they join together to form venules. And once these venules join together, out comes a vein. So this is how the circulatory system works in human beings. From the heart, the artery brings the blood. Here are capillaries. Tissue is a place where exchange of gases takes place by the process of diffusion. The waste enters into the waste, that is the carbon dioxide and other wastes, they enter inside the capillaries and inside the venules, and from the venules back to the heart. The human circulatory system is a double circulatory system. It has two separate circuits and the blood passes through the heart twice. They are the pulmonary circuit and the systemic circuit. In the pulmonary circuit, the blood flows between the heart and the lungs. In the systemic circuit, the blood flows between the heart and the other organs. Pulmonary circuit. The pulmonary circuit transports blood to the lungs. The blood is oxygenated there and then carried back to the heart. Gaseous exchange happens in the lungs. Carbon dioxide diffuses from the blood into the air in the alveoli. Oxygen diffuses from the air in the alveoli into the blood and is absorbed by the hemoglobin in the RBC. Unlike other arteries and veins, the pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood and the pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood. In the systemic circuit, the blood flows from the heart to the body. It transports oxygen and nutrients to the body tissues and carries away the deoxygenated blood containing carbon dioxide and other waste materials. So this is a double circulation which is broadly divided into two types, the pulmonary circulation and the systemic circulation. So in the pulmonary circulation, you can see these are lungs, and from the lungs the oxygenated blood comes by the pulmonary vein. We have got an exception of pulmonary vein and pulmonary artery. When we say artery, it always carry oxygenated blood, and when we talk about veins, it always carry deoxygenated blood, that is blood that is rich in carbon dioxide. But there is an exception to it. The pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood and the pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood. This is an exception and you'll have to learn. So here from the lungs, the pulmonary veins reaches to the heart and there it carries the oxygenated blood. And different types of arteries enter different organs. You can see all the different types of arteries, they are entering different organs. This is just an example about the artery of stomach, then artery of the kidney, renal artery, artery of the liver, that is called as hepatic artery, and arteries of the lower body part. And the oxygenated blood and the deoxygenated blood do not mix up in our body, and there is a continuous supply of oxygenated blood going in our body and continuous removal of deoxygenated blood in our body back to the heart, and therefore the flow of blood, that is the circulation of blood in our body, is called as double circulation. The oxygenated blood and the deoxygenated blood never mixes. So vessels transporting oxygenated blood is shown by red color, vessels transporting deoxygenated blood is shown by the blue color, and vessels involved in gaseous exchange is shown by the mixture of the red and blue. That is, here the capillary is a site where exchange of gases takes place by the process of diffusion. So this is again a figure that will tell us in a better way to write during the exams. Those who are not able to draw the whole of the heart in a pictorial form can draw a figure like this. So the heart is broadly divided into 4 parts. The 2 upper part of the hearts are called as atria. They are the left atrium and they are the right atrium. The lower parts of the heart are called as ventricles. They are the left ventricle and they are the right ventricle. This part of a circulation is called as the pulmonary circulation, and this part of the circulation is called as systemic circulation. Okay, following are the steps that are involved in the blood circulation. The left atrium receives the oxygenated blood from the lungs from the pulmonary vein. This is a pulmonary vein. It will give the oxygenated blood to the left atrium. The left atrium contracts. The oxygenated blood is pumped into the left ventricle. Later the left ventricle contracts and the oxygenated blood is forced out into the aorta, which transports the blood to the different parts of the body except the lungs. Further, when the oxygenated blood passes through the capillaries of various different organs, it gives oxygen to the blood cells. Along with the oxygen, blood also gives the digested food and other dissolved materials to the body cells. Simultaneously, the carbon dioxide, which is produced as a waste during the respiration, enters into the blood. From the body tissues, the deoxygenated blood carrying carbon dioxide is pumped back to the heart into the right atrium by the vena cava. From the body tissues, the deoxygenated blood carrying carbon dioxide is pumped back to the heart into the right atrium by the vena cava. There are 2 types of vena cava. They are the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. The superior vena cava brings the deoxygenated blood from the part of the body that is above the abdomen, and the inferior vena cava brings the deoxygenated blood from the part below the abdomen. They both then enters into the heart in the right atrium. When the right atrium contracts, the deoxygenated blood is pumped into the right ventricle. From here, it is taken back to the lungs by the pulmonary artery for oxygenation. After this, the oxygenated blood is once again sent back to the left atrium. The entire above process is done repeatedly so as the blood keeps circulating in our body and keeps the circulating oxygen, digested food and other materials to all the parts of the body. This blood also keeps on eliminating waste products in the form of deoxygenated blood formed in the cells of the body. It is necessary to separate the oxygenated and deoxygenated bloods in the mammals and birds, as this separation allows a highly efficient supply of oxygen to the blood cells. Humans are warm-blooded animals, hence the preparation of oxygenated and deoxygenated helps in regulating the body temperature. Certain facts about human heart. The human heart is roughly the size of a large fist. The heart weighs between about 10 to 12 ounces, that is 280 to 340 grams in men and 8 to 10 ounces, that is 230 to 280 grams in women. The heart beats about 1 lakh times per day, that is 3 billion beats in a lifetime. An adult heart beats about 60 to 80 times per minute, but in a newborn, the heart rate is little faster. It beats 70 to 190 beats per minute. The heart pumps 5.7 liter of blood throughout the body. It is located in the center of the chest, usually pointing slightly left. The human heart organ is an organ that pumps blood throughout the body via the circulatory system, supplying oxygen, nutrients to the tissues and removing carbon dioxide and other waste. The tissues of the body need a constant supply of nutrition in order to be active. If the heart is not able to supply blood to the organs and the tissues, they will die. So again, I will do the revision of what we have studied. The human heart has 4 chambers. The 2 upper chambers are called as the atria. The 2 lower chambers are called as ventricles. The right atrium and the right ventricle together make up the right part of the heart. The left atrium and the left ventricle make up the left part of the heart. The wall of muscles called as a septum, it separates the right and the left part of the heart. Blood from the right atrium will enter into the right ventricle, and there is a valve there, and that valve is called as tricuspid valve. Blood from the left atrium enters into the left ventricle, and there is a valve over there, and that valve is called as bicuspid valve. The valve ensures that no backflow of the blood takes place when the atria and ventricle contracts. The ventricle pumps the blood to the various organs of the body, and hence they have thicker muscular wall than the atria. The left ventricles have thicker muscular wall than the right ventricles as it pumps blood to various parts of the body. The right ventricle pumps blood only to the lungs. So you should be knowing over here that if we talk about only the right and the left ventricle, the muscle walls are more thicker because it is going to pump the blood to the whole part of the body. Whereas in right ventricle, the blood is being pumped only to the lungs. So there are many questions that you should know over here. Where is the bicuspid valve located? The bicuspid valve is located on the left, between the left atrium and the left ventricle. Where is the tricuspid valve located? The tricuspid valve is located between the right atrium and the right ventricle. Are there valves present between the left and right ventricles when they enter into their respective arteries and veins? Yes, they also have valves, and they have semilinear valves. So valves are always present whenever they go from one part to the another, and it ensures that no backflow of the blood takes place. Which side of the heart has got more thicker muscular wall? The more thicker muscular wall is that of ventricles. But out of the ventricles also, who has more thickness? Which side is more thickness? The left ventricle has got more thickness. So in exams, many times this figure is asked. I explained this heart in this pattern also. So those who cannot draw that, at least should draw this. The marks will definitely be cut if you are drawing this. But if you are not able to draw that, then definitely you draw this. So this is the whole heart. This is the left atrium, and this is the left ventricle. There is a valve in between, and this valve is called as bicuspid valve. Bicuspid valve is also called as mitral valve, and this ensures no blood goes back into the atrium. From the left ventricle, the blood enters into the aorta. So aorta also there are valves, and these are semilunar valves. Then on the right side, you can see there is a right atrium and a right ventricle. Here there is a valve, and this valve is called as tricuspid valve. And this also ensures no blood enters back into the right atrium. And when the blood goes from the right ventricle to the pulmonary artery, there are valves again, and these valves are semilunar valves. So let us talk about this aorta. Aorta will give blood to the whole of the body, the oxygenated blood, and it divides into various arteries. Then the pulmonary artery will take the deoxygenated blood to the lungs. There is an inferior vena cava which will come from the lower abdomen part, and there is a superior vena cava that collects deoxygenated blood from the upper part of the body. So the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava, they will enter into the right atrium. So this is pericardium, that is the membrane part, outermost membrane part of the heart. And in between they are double membrane, and in between there is a fluid that will prevent the friction or jerks on the heart. Oxygen-rich blood from the lungs comes to the left atrium through the pulmonary veins, and when the left atrium is collecting blood, it is in a relaxed state. When the left atrium contracts, the blood enters into the left ventricle. When the left ventricle contracts, the blood enters into the aorta. So from here you can easily see that when the filling of the blood is taking place in any compartment, it is in a relaxed state. As soon as it is filled up, it contracts and passes the flow of the blood into the next chamber. That is, if the atrium is in a relaxed state, it will fill the blood, whether it is oxygenated or deoxygenated. And when it contracts, it will pass on the blood flow to the ventricles. And when the blood is flowing in the ventricles are in a relaxed state. And when they are filled up completely, they will contract and pass on the blood either to the aorta or to the pulmonary artery. When the left atrium relaxes, the blood flow is taking place from the pulmonary vein to the left atrium. When the left atrium, the blood is full, what happens? It will contract, and through the bicuspid valve, it will pass on the oxygenated blood to the ventricles. At that time, the ventricles are in relaxed state, and as soon as it gets filled up, it will contract, and it will pass the blood to the aorta through the semilunar valves. And through the aorta, the blood flows in the whole of the body. During the same time, when the blood is being filled up in the left atrium, at that time, the blood also gets filled up into the right atrium. The deoxygenated blood that comes up from the vena cava. And when it gets filled up, it contracts and passes on the blood to the ventricles. Which ventricles? The right ventricle. And when the right ventricle is fully filled up with the blood, it contracts and sends the blood to the pulmonary artery. So at the time, the two atria will relax together and they will contract together, and the two ventricles will relax together and they will contract together. Let us discuss about the lymph. Now, here the lymph is colorless liquid, but here it is shown by green color. Let us identify different colors of the colors, which type blood flow is there. The red color over there indicates that it is an oxygenated blood, the blue color indicates that it is a disoxygenated blood, and the green color that is found between the cells. These are all the cells, and this is place which have interstitial cells. They are intercellular space also, and these are the space that is intercellular space. The green color indicates that there is a blood and that is colorless and it is called as lymph. There is another type of fluid that is involved in transportation. The capillaries are one cell thick vessels. They have pores present on it through which the plasma and certain cells can escape in the intercellular spaces. The size of WBC is small, so it can easily move out of the pores. The size of red blood cell is more than the size of the pores, and therefore it cannot move out of the pores. So the fluid that is moving out of the pores of the capillary is colorless since no RBCs are present. It is rich in protein, WBCs, and even platelets. This fluid is called as lymph. Functions of the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is a collection of lymph vessels and glands. It has got three main roles. It balances the fluid. Whatever fluid has been moved to the place that is in the intercellular space, it will move back to the blood. It gives us protection against infection. It is rich in WBC and it helps us to fight against many diseases. There is a lymph vessel that is called as lacteal that is found in the villi in the small intestine of the small intestine. They absorb the digested fat from the intestine to the bloodstream. This is again an important question and it has been asked many a times. What are the functions of the lymphatic system? And you should be knowing the three functions. So here you can easily see that the oxygenated blood from the arteries, they reaches to the various tissues and divides into capillaries. In the place of the capillaries, wherever there are capillaries over here, the blood flows out of the capillaries. They are colorless in nature because they do not have any RBCs in present. They get then collected into a duct, and all these ducts, they join together to form a lymph vessel, and this lymph vessel joins the vein at a place near to the heart, and it enters into our normal circulatory system of heart, arteries and veins. These are the lymph nodes where the collection of the lymph takes place. One example of a lymph node is your tonsil. Thank you so much. See you in the next session.